Hi there, this is Bruce from Big Country, and you're listening to The Mixtape.
Hello and welcome to the Mixtape podcast. I am your host, Mark, and every week we'll take a deep dive into my guests' inspirations and influences by asking them to make up an imaginary 6-track mixtape. There are over 120 archive episodes. The mixtapepodcast.com is your one-stop shop for all of those episodes, my YouTube channel, and it'd be great to catch up with you on social media as well. Don't forget, if you enjoy this episode, to give us a like, a share, or a follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's mixtape, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Bruce from Big Country. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for making the time coming on the show. Really appreciate it. So, Big Country Greatest Hits Tour, coming back to Australia, hitting the usual suspects: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, saving the very best till last. Perth, it will be the Roseman Hotel, 17th of October, metropolistouring.com for tickets. It's been, what's it been, 5 or 6 years since you were last here, Bruce? Looking forward to getting back?
Yes, we should have been back, because we like to go down every 18 months, but it was a COVID thing that stopped it the last time. Yeah. And I might get this wrong, but I think it was just after COVID, and it was either Australia weren't accepting visitors and New Zealand weren't, or vice versa. We couldn't come down at that point, but we've now managed to reschedule, and we'll be there next week, definitely.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you here, mate. I don't want to make you feel old. I don't mean to be rude, Bruce, or anything, but after all these years, what keeps you motivated and excited about getting back on stage and touring and that sort of thing?
I mean, I love it anyway. It's my head and my heart, absolutely love it. It's just my body is going, you stupid, you shouldn't be doing this. But no, it's great. We've now got a kind of new lease of life, because we've got so many great new members in the band. We've got Tommy, Chris and Reese in the band, along with Jamie and myself. And both Tommy and Chris were, and still are, in fact, playing a group called Restless Natives, which they do a lot of Big Country. In fact, it's all Big Country stuff. So they know the back catalogue inside out, and they're really sympathetic to the Big Country songs. They probably know them better than what I do, and they've just brought this enthusiasm, and it's really kicked me up the bum, and it's a pleasure playing those songs again. So I've always loved, I've never ever got bored playing any of those songs. They're part of my DNA, and I've just always loved the songs. I've always loved performing. I've always loved recording anyway, and it's just something that I do, and I enjoy it very much. So a labor of love.
What I normally ask bands who are coming to Australia touring is, can you give us a bit of a clue, like set list wise, what people can expect? But the clues in the title with regards to Greatest Hits Tour.
The Greatest Hits, I think that's obviously the promoters called it that. We're going to play those songs, but generally things like that I don't get involved with. But I didn't even know it was going to be called The Greatest Hits. But anyway, no, but we do play the songs that we're known for, obviously, and then we play songs that we like, and then we play songs that fans like, album tracks, and some fan favourite B-sides and stuff. So it'll be a mishmash, everything.
So yeah, 17th of October, Roseman Hotel for Perth people. What I often do, Bruce, is when I know I've got people coming on, I throw it out there on my Patreon page if anyone wants to submit a question to you. So I've got a question for you. It's on my phone. It's a bit long, because I couldn't remember it. So I've got to get it up. Got to get it up on my phone. But it's a good question. Okay, so this is from Paul. And Paul asks, in previous interviews, you say that Steeltown was deeply influenced by what was happening around you socially and politically with miners' strikes and your dad on the picket line. When you look back now, is there a moment during the writing or recording of Steeltown, perhaps a specific riff, lyric, or studio accident that you hadn't realised at the time would become a kind of personal landmark for you musically or emotionally, but which you now see as having shaped not just the album, but Big Country's identity ever since? If so, what was it, and how do you feel about that moment today? Sorry, that was a stupid long question.
Wow.
So how do I answer that?
It was a very hard time. Every album that we did always, not that every album had a different theme, but the The third album was quite mystical and romantic, and the Steeltown was very much. You knew what Stuart was singing about. It was all black and white. It was almost like you were reading the papers. It was obviously there was stuff in there about what was going on in the UK at the time. Say with the miners' strike, the Falklands was obviously going on. The song "Come Back to Me" and "Where the Roses Sown" was. You can tell it was "Come Back to Me" was definitely about people returning from the Falklands and stuff like that. It's a very "In Just a Shadow," which is. It's kind of horrible, in fact, what Stuart's talking about, singing about, and but it's life. There was no holds barred in it. It was what was going on, and the album's not really got much relief in it. It's a relentless, hard, and it actually sounds hard, not as in heavy rock, but it's just a hard, gritty, almost like a kitchen sink drama, but for real kind of thing. I mean, I think that's probably about as much as I can say. There's not any specific songs, I think, as a whole, but still play maybe about three songs from that album. We just did the 40th anniversary of that album just over a year ago, and we replayed it in its entirety apart from the one song, "Girl with Grey Eyes," and it's even emotionally it is quite tough, and when you think back, and it's as well, you've got to remember, at that time in the 80s, it was still in the Cold War period, when there was still that threat, the world kicking off. They were great and bad times. I felt we were having, for me personally, I was having out there and having a bit of success, doing what I wanted to do, and then back home, my father and some of my friends, and they're on the picket line and stuff, and it was quite... It was quite a bittersweet time.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, you did well answering that one, Bruce. Thanks, mate. I did.
Cool.
He said to me, "I've got another question, but it's not as deep." And
tell me, buddy.
Yeah, it was a completely different vibe. His other question, I was like, "No, we'll go with that one. It'll be good.
No,
all right. I've got a few sort of lighter, quick questions for you, Bruce, before we get into the mixtape track choices in a bit. These are questions I ask everybody every time someone comes on the show. So, first question is: do you have a pre-show ritual?
Oh, a pre-show ritual. No, I do actually, but it's boring. But it's because I've got arthritis for a while. I basically just do warm-up. So I'll sit and potter about on my guitar backstage for about 40 minutes before I go on and just basically just warm my joints up. I don't do any stretches or pulls or jump about daft. I just like to get all my joints moving and my fingers, my knuckle. I've got every joint in my body is kind of it's just wear and tear as you get older, as you probably know. So that's all I do is just warm up my joints and just piddle about on the guitar. There's no any man's rock and roll stuff in there like chucking tellies at each other or any of that kind of stuff.
That leads perfectly into the next question. Just a side note on arthritis. I've got arthritis in my knee. My partner's trying to get me onto this stuff that vets use on horses. That's apparently really good for arthritis.
What?
So yeah, I know. It's just some sort of cream or it's some sort of lotion that is really good for horses. And she said apparently it's really good for arthritis as well. Her dad's doctor recommended it to him, and he swears by it. So she's lining me up now for some of that. Yeah. She's trying to get me into it, and I was like, I don't know about that. I want to start nailing.
Let me know the results.
Okay, so talking about rock star behaviour. Next question: what's the most rock star thing you've ever done, Bruce?
There was one time we were out in America, and I was a bit the worse for wear one night on stage, and I don't usually have a drink. In fact, I've only had a drink once before I went on stage, and that was it. And I seem to remember waking up halfway through the set, and I was pissed off with myself that I threw my guitar up in the air and it hit the lighting truss, and then the neck of my guitar went right through the backdrop and it shredded the backdrop. It went almost like a pirate's sword going through a sail, which really pissed off my lighting designer because it completely trashed his show. So that's probably about the most rock and roll thing I've ever done, was completely destroying the backdrop when we were live on stage.
Great answer. Next question, Bruce. What's the weirdest thing in your tour rider?
Here's a weird one. Soup mix.
Soup mix. Powdered like packet soup.
No, you get soup mix, not packet soup. You go to your superstore, you buy what we call it soup mix, and it's basically a mixture of diced carrots, diced turnip, diced.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I didn't ask for it, and nobody in the band asked for soup mix. But for some strange reason, I don't know, I ended up, as a mistake, getting soup mix one night, and it stuck. So every night we would, I don't know if it was like the management playing a joke or something, but every night we'd turn up and there'd always be a big bag of diced turnips, diced carrots. It looked like a bag of vomit. And it was like, who asked for the soup mix? I don't know. And it kind of just strangely followed us around. Occasionally, we took off, but occasionally it does turn up. Turn it. There you go. Very rock and roll.
Excellent. It's a great one. What's your favourite city to play live, Bruce?
I like venue in a city would definitely be the Barlands in Glasgow, just because it brings back, and it's a great gig, always is a great gig because the people there are fantastic, but it does bring back great memories when we first played there at Hogmanay many years ago. There's great cities all around the world. There's too many to mention, but from a concert point of view, from a venue point of view, definitely the Glasgow Barlands. I'll go for that, I think.
Yeah, great one. That comes up quite a lot. It's a popular choice, Clarko. Finally, if you could time travel to any concert in history, which one would you choose?
I'll tell you what, I'd love to have seen the Beatles play at the Star Club in Hamburg. Is it Star Club?
The Star Club, yeah.
The Beatles in Hamburg. That must have been amazing to watch the Beatles play. I think they used to do about 4 sets a night. And just to see them in the early days of them, just because I bet they were meant to have been amazing live in those early days, just because they played so much all round at the Cavern and then over in Hamburg. So they must have been really tight.
Don't touch that dial. You're listening to The Mixtape.
The Mixtape is brought to you in association with Giglist. Giglist is your one-stop shop for all your live events. If you're looking to get out and experience some live music, you can filter by artist, venue, suburb or date. If you are an artist, it will take you less than a minute to list your gig for free on the website. The Mixtape brought to you in association with Giglist. Gigs in a list. All right, Bruce, let's get into some mixtape track choices, mate. My show is called The Mixtape, and when I get people on, I like to ask them, just as a way of exploring their influences and inspirations, to make up an imaginary mixtape and pick some tracks for it. So track one is, what would you be picking for an attention-grabbing track, Bruce? What would you go with there?
Brown Sugar, Rolling Stones. That riff at the very start, the riff at the very start, the Keith, and then when it clicks in, which I think there's a little sort of castanet sort of thing, just jumps in, and then the drums kick in, and it just makes you want to dance. And it's just, the minute you hear that, it's just, that is a classic opener. There you go. Play it.
Opening riff, mate. Great opening riff. Good one. Good pick. And track two, Bruce, is what is a song that you sing when you're on your own in the car or the shower?
Actually, by the Shadows. I know it's an instrumental, but you can still sing it down.
Yeah, it's swinging on. Yeah, great one. Yeah.
It saves me from learning the lyrics as well.
Yeah. Hank Marvin's coming to Perth soon, I think. I want to try and get along to that show. I think he's touring with a band, but he's solo.
Doesn't he? He lives in Australia, doesn't he, Hank?
Does he? I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
I think he lives. I'm sure he lives here.
Track three, Bruce. What's your favourite cover version?
Well, my record collection is over there, and I have to go and have a look. Alex Harvey did some covers, right? And he did a great version of the old Jimmy Rogers song, Gambling Barroom Blues.
Track four, what is a song you wish you could play to your 18-year-old self?
Marquee Moonbite Television.
What sort of stuff were you listening to when you were 18, Bruce? What were you listening to around?
When I was 18, it was I was really into, like I said, the sensational Alex Harvey band. I was into Bebop Deluxe, which was Bill Nelson, and then obviously the punk rock thing came along in 76. And I got into the bands like The Clash, The Damned, The Jam.
Track 5, Bruce, is if you were making up your mixtape for like a romantic interest, you want to let someone know you're keen on them, what would be a song you would use for that?
I'm going to go for First Cut Is the Deepest, the original Cat Stevens version.
Yeah. Great.
I like it. Rod's version is great as well, but Cat Stevens is to me, it's just the simple, it is the one.
Yeah. You're of the same era as me, Bruce. Have you ever done that? If you met someone and you was like trying to let them know you're interested, or you just started dating, would you make up a mixtape for her? Did that ever happen?
I'd buy her a drink. I'd buy her a drink. I'd buy her a few
You're Scottish, you're way more direct.
I'm not going to waste a cassette on a girl. I'm going to buy her a drink. Be romantic.
Brilliant. Good on you, mate. Good on you. All right. And track 6 of your mixtape, Bruce, finally, is what is a deep cut, an album track or a B-side that you feel doesn't get the recognition it deserves?
And usually album tracks don't usually get the recognition because they're not singles. But for me, there's a great song on. It's by the sensational Alex Harvey Band, and the song's called "Give My Compliments to the Chef." It's just pure genius. It would never have been a single, but as a song, it's one of my favourite songs of all time.
So just rounding it out, Bruce, future plans, mate. Once you get this Australian tour out of the way, what's happening for the band back end of 25, early 2026? What you got going on?
After we get back from Australia, New Zealand and Hong Kong, we get home for 4 days and we've got a German tour, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium. We've got that lined up after that. And then we've got the UK tour up until the end of the year. But we've been recording a new album as well with songs that were actually big country songs that were never completed. They were like demos and B-sides. And
Okay.
yeah. So I've been updating them with the new lineup. So there'll be a new album out next year, and there'll be a documentary on Stuart coming out next year, a book about Stuart next year as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
And then it'll be the Sears third album, 40th anniversary next year, I think, as well. So there'll be a lot of stuff happening next year.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you down in Australia, Bruce. It's metropolistouring.com for the big country Australian tour dates: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth on the 17th of October at the Rosemount Hotel. Thanks, mate. Safe travels down under, and we'll see you when you get here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mixtape podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go to the top of the page and rate it 5 stars, or give us a like or follow on social media at the Mixtape podcast and radio show. Don't forget, there's over 100 archive episodes just waiting to be discovered. And all you need to do is visit themixtapepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.